I'm really conflicted about how I feel about Wayforward's River City Girls. When I first played it, I liked it a lot, and I still do even after playing it about 4 times and getting every single achievement. But there's a lot of glaring issues that I have with it, mostly with the gameplay, story, and writing, which, for a game that's part of the story-driven Kunio-Kun series, is very important to criticize, at least in my opinion. But first, I want to do a quick little history lesson of the Kunio-Kun series and how River City Girls even came to be. The Kunio-Kun series started in 1986 with Technos' arcade classic Nekketsu Koha Kunio-Kun, directed by Yoshiisha Kishimoto. The game and the series as a whole follows the delinquent Kunio, a student attending Nekketsu High School, and his rival/best friend Riki, who's attending Hanazono High School. The games mostly involve Kunio and Riki having the most intense high school years in fiction, as they get into fights that involve other rival high schools and participate in a shit ton of activities like sporting events and fighting tournaments. There's even some non-canon games with interpretations of them like in Edo period Japan or in a generic fantasy setting, though the first game in the series has a very simple plot, since it was an arcade game after all, with Kunio saving his kidnapped friend Hiroshi. Gameplay-wise, it was basically the very early predecessor to the beat-em-up genre as we know it today. However, this game would be taken under by a curse that would continue with the rest of the Kunio-Kun series up until the late 2000s. Localization. Since the game was heavily themed around the street gang culture of Japan, it got a massive overhaul when it came over to the West in both its graphics and its own title, where it was retitled as just Renegade. The titular character of the game, Kunio, was also renamed to Mr. K.
Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs.
After the success of this game, Kishimoto got to work on another title, but Technos basically said to him, "Hey, you know that previous game you worked on? Yeah, that one? Too Japanese. Localization is expensive, so I want you to make a game that can appeal to those dirty Westerners." And Kishimoto was like, okay, sure. This led him to make the even more technologically advanced arcade hit Double Dragon, which was released just a year after Renegade. From this point on, Kunio-Kun and Double Dragon would have varying levels of success in both Japan and America. While Double Dragon was pretty popular over in the West, Kunio-Kun was still under that late 80s to early 90s localization curse I mentioned earlier, with a lot of the games in the series being renamed and altered, most notably with the 1989 Famicom game Downtown Nekketsu Monogatari, which was localized and released in 1990 as River City Ransom. Unlike the simple beat-em-up style of Renegade, Downtown Nekketsu Monogatari brought in the story aspect that the series is known for today, among many other things, like a huge city to explore, food to eat, moves to learn, teddy bears to hug, etc. It was again a very revolutionary title, especially for the time. The story-heavy nature of the series continued with the abundance of sports titles it would end up having. When the Super Famicom arrived, Technos did a couple of titles like a sequel to the original Renegade directed by Kishimoto-san himself, as well as a very interesting title he also directed called Shin Nekketsu Koha Kunio Tachi no Banka, which featured 2 new playable characters to the series, Misako, who first appeared in Nekketsu Koko Dodgeball Boo Soccer Hen, and a completely new character called Kyoko. By the mid to late 90s, however, both Kunio-Kun and Double Dragon will receive their last newest titles for a while on the Neo Geo, a Double Dragon fighting game that was kinda, sorta, maybe based on the 1994 movie that even Kishimoto-san doesn't want to talk about, and a sequel to the arcade game Super Dodgeball, which released in 1995 and 1996, respectively. After these 2 titles, Technos Japan would unfortunately declare bankruptcy in 1996. But this was far from the end for these series. Shortly after they went bankrupt, a company called Million Co. Limited bought all of the intellectual properties from Technos, including Kunio-Kun and Double Dragon. While it was nice that these series weren't technically dead, the things that Million did with them were underwhelming to say the least. For Kunio-Kun, we got compilations of the original Famicom titles on the Game Boy Advance, and a remake of Downtown Nekketsu Monogatari on the same system, which received probably the worst looking Game Boy Advance box art ever when it came over to the West as River City Ransom EX. Oh yeah, and a couple not too noteworthy DS titles. Double Dragon really got the worst end of the stick, with an admittedly really good remake of the original Double Dragon on GBA and the fucking Zeebo of all things, and a not too noteworthy mobile game. That is, until the year 2012 came along. Double Dragon would be rebooted thanks to the work of Wayforward Technologies, who made titles like Contra 4, DuckTales Remastered, and even original titles like the Shantae and Mighty Switch Force series. This reboot was known as Double Dragon Neon, which is an amazing reboot and a damn good game in its own right. I might make a video on this game, so maybe Wayforward can finally see that people want a sequel to this game. People being me. This game is fucking awesome. Anyway, in the 2010s, things started looking good for both series again, as in 2015, Arc System Works had acquired all of Technos' intellectual properties from Million. And since then, the series is where it is today, with some great 3DS and Switch release titles, and actual proper localization for the games! Thank God! In fact, at the time of me making this video, River City Saga 3 Kingdoms is coming out in July this year, and it looks amazing! However, while the sort of Kunio-Kun renaissance was happening, Wayforward stepped into the spotlight again, as co-directors Adam Tierney and Bannon Rudis wanted to make their own game in the series. Both of them were big fans of Kunio-Kun, and Tierney had just finished working on River City Ransom Underground, a sequel to the localized version of Downtown Nekketsu Monogatari. This title will be first announced in July of 2019 and released in September that same year as River City Girls. So, now that you know the history of Kunio-Kun and how this game came to be, I think we should start talking about the topic of this damn video, the actual game itself. First off, I want to mention that the presentation of this game is top-notch, and this is clearly shown with the opening. The combination of Megan McDuffie's music and the vocals provided by Christina, I'm obligated to play at least one character in every game in anime now, V, is pretty great. The animation in the opening is also pretty good. However, the opening song itself is a little bit too short. There's only one verse, and the opening itself is just about 30 seconds, which is okay, but at least could have been a little bit longer, you know? Maybe another verse? Especially since the song still keeps going during the title screen. Anyway, going past the file select and the mode select, which has things like choosing the amount of players, difficulty, and friendly fire, which I don't know why is still a thing in 2019 unless you hate your friend that much, we get to the character selection screen. You can choose between Misako and Kyoko from the start, but you can also play as Riki and Kunio after you beat the game, but I'll be glossing over those two for the time being. Kinda like what the game itself does. For this video, I chose to play as Misako because I already beat the regular game and New Game Plus with Kyoko, so I wanted to change things up a bit. So, let's begin. The plot of the game is pretty simple. Misako is in detention while Kyoko is just existing next to her until she gets a notification on her phone showing a picture of Kunio and Riki just casually walking into a van, but Kyoko assumes they're kidnapped and they go beat the shit out of everyone in the school to go escape from Nekketsu High School, or River City High School. Yeah, not even the game is consistent with this. The game basically mixes in elements with the original Japanese series, like with character names, but it also uses names from River City Ransom for certain aspects, like how the hamburgers are still called Merv Burgers, just like in that game. It's understandable that River City is technically how the games are still titled over here in the West for consistency's sake, even though newer games like the 3DS reboot games don't even mention River City at all, but it's still weird how this game basically mixes the two together. If you're gonna be doing a game in the series, just follow the Japanese setting like the 3DS games, or fully embrace the localized setting like what River City Ransom Underground did. Don't mix and match the two together since it would just lead to even more confusion, and it seems like they're not gonna stop since Pruvi, who's a playable character in Underground, is gonna be playable in River City Girls 2, which is coming out this year, at the time of me making this video at least, which is still frustrating to me. Anyway, as soon as you even get to know the controls, you're bombarded with tutorial prompts telling you things about attacking, weapons, the map menu, accessories, the enemy list, the options. Literally every single thing in the pause phone menu thing has its own separate tutorial, and you have to go through these in every single playthrough, even during New Game Plus. After the 30 tutorial screens throughout the school, we run into Hasebe and Mami. Now, these two characters have a pretty extensive history in the Kunio-Kun series, both of them making their first appearance in Downtown Nekketsu Monogatari. Mami being Riki's girlfriend that's kidnapped by the main villain of the game, Yamada, and Hasebe being one of Kunio's friends that you encounter pretty early in the game. In River City Girls, however, they're portrayed as sort of rivals to Kyoko and Misako, which I do actually kinda like.
Thought I smelled something. Shouldn't you two be in detention or something? OMG, seriously? I was joking.
Speaking of Kyoko and Misako, they've gotten pretty big overhauls style since the other games in the series. Misako having the biggest changes, going from the bubbly and sweet-looking soccer manager like most of her appearances in the series, to a pretty serious and mean girl, at least on the surface. In several parts of the game, we see her softer side and affection for Kunio shining through.
Everyone who's cool wears Hibari. No offense.
None taken.
His name was Kunio, and he seemed nice.
He is nice. Now where is he?
Kyoko, meanwhile, is pretty much the opposite. Nice and kind on the outside, but actually pretty mean and wanting to kick in people's teeth most of the time on the inside.
That big girl said you hang out with them, do ya?
As if. Those guys are losers.
What did he say about my Ricky Poo?
Chill, Kyoko.
I'll chill this guy's face!
They make a really nice duo, especially during scenes where they're talking to each other during gameplay.
Those girls seem nice.
Yeah, but they're crazy.
Oh?
They think they're dating Kunio and Ricky.
What? They better not be!
Relax. Their brains are just broken.
Gonna be a lot more broken if they ever touch my Ricky!
So Misako and Kyoko basically tell what's happening with Kunio and Ricky to Hasebe and Mami, and they're just like, oh yeah, we'll keep an eye out for them. We're totally not hiding anything, Lamau. Then, after going through a few more rooms of the school, including a pretty funny PSA about puberty featuring Abobo.
Students, today we're going to learn about puberty.
Puberty? But I don't know what that is.
That's because you're ignorant, Timmy. Puberty stands for punching until bricks explode right towards you.
Wow,
Now do you understand?
not at all.
Well, let's see if we can find someone to help pound the knowledge into your tiny brain.
Oh, gee, what's that?
Abobo! Glad to meet you, Timmy. With enough effort, you could get as big as me. You give it a try?
I guess so.
You'll have to punch harder than that, Timmy.
Oh, so weak.
Puberty.
We encounter our first boss in the game, Misuzu. Misuzu's been a pretty big staple of the series since she first appeared in Nekketsu Koha Kunio-Kun as one of the main bosses. And she is betrayed beautifully in this game. Her personality and interactions with Kyoko and Misako are great, and her boss theme is fantastic as well.
As part of the school defense force, it's my job to keep idiots like you from sneaking out of class.
But you don't even go to this school.
Shut up! I'm trying to earn extra money!
All 7 bosses in the game have their own unique theme done by an artist called Chipzel, and they're all great. But the downside is that most of the bosses are really, really easy. They all seem difficult at first, but their patterns are very simple and don't really take that much effort to figure out and to beat, even on hard mode, which is what I'm playing through for this video. Misuzu, unfortunately, is no exception. And it's a shame, since she's infamous for being an incredibly hard boss in almost every game she's been in. But since she's the first boss you encounter in this game, I guess I'll give it a pass.
You're embarrassing me!
After we beat Misuzu, we're finally out of River of Nekketsu City High School or whatever, and we get to explore Crosstown. We can go into our first shops where we can buy food and accessories to equip to your character. Food does exactly what you think it does, though some food will give you special abilities like the turbo juice that makes you run way too fast. Accessories are pretty weird though. They can give you either specific buffs or special abilities that you wouldn't be able to do without them, like the athletic top, which allows you to carry heavy objects at normal speed. There's no accessory or accessories as far as I know that are the best or the worst. They're all pretty situational and come down to personal preference. I personally go for accessories that do more damage on certain enemy types. You can also get completely new moves from Aaron Hansen in Crosstown and Danny Sexbang in Ocean Heights later in the game. I'm not kidding.
What up, bro, Seth? You ready to break a leg?
Hey, welcome to my dojo. Let's enlighten ourselves.
It's cool seeing Billy and Jimmy in the 2 dojos here, since Double Dragon and Kunio-Kun are sorta connected, but this is just a really bizarre casting choice. I would have preferred Jeff Luke, who voices both brothers in Double Dragon Neon.
Seems like a trap. Well, yeah, but we gotta find Marion.
They even used their neon designs for this game, so it would have been perfect. but I guess having YouTuber guest stars is more important than consistency to Wayforward.
Deadly!
Yeah, for real,
Anyway, the moves you can buy in the dojos are incredibly useful for doing longer combos and for some sweet looking finishers, though you also learn new moves as you level up, including the move that totally doesn't date this game at all. There's also special moves that introduce a new mechanic with the SP meter. They're really useful for finishers, but they aren't unlimited because your SP meter can run out quicker if you keep using them constantly, though the meter replenishes when you hit enemies. Overall, it's a pretty good system that isn't useless or overpowered. And then we see the next recurring character, Godai. Oh boy. Now, I don't want to be too harsh on the casting of this game because it isn't bad at all. In fact, some of the characters are casted perfectly, but Jacksepticeye as Godai really sticks out, and not in a good way.
Oh, I'm no creep. I'm Godai. Who, me? Anyway, nice weather, right? You catch that recent sports game? You're looking for Ricky and Kunio, right? Well, I keep tabs on everyone.
Godai just sounds like Sean's normal voice, which is really distracting, especially since you encounter him multiple times throughout the game. Speaking of those encounters, Godai throughout the game gives you optional missions to do things like destroy a statue, destroy cars, beat up some guy in the bathroom, beat up some members of the Yakuza that are red, because why not? You get some money and experience points for doing these, which is nice, but aside from that, they're honestly pretty pointless. The game itself is already pretty easy since grinding for XP and money doesn't take too much time. So why would you go through the hassle of doing these missions since they don't really do anything aside from giving you a special accessory for doing all of them, which isn't really that useful since you get it pretty much near the end of the game. The only mission with Godai that actually matters is getting a double Merv burger for him. Once you do that, he tells you about Yamada, who's supposedly hanging out at the mall.
A kid from Reiho High School. Or he used to be, anyway, before he started practicing the dark arts.
When you actually get there, you see Hiroshi, another very established character in the Kunio-Kun series, appearing all the way back in the first game. He tells you that the mall is locked and you'll need to get the keys from the security guard to open it. How do we get the keys? From a boss, maybe? No, by awkwardly jumping over the security guy's house and grabbing them while he's sleeping.
Get out of my house! Get out of my house! Get out of my house! Get out of my house!
Now we can actually get into the mall, but guess what? Despite the mall being a pretty cool area and having one of the best tracks in the game,
can you feel me coming like a heart beating time? Keep on moving, hunting until you're mine.
it's completely pointless, because when you reach the end of the mall, Hiroshi tells you that Yamada isn't actually there and probably at the construction site. Okay, so what was the point of getting the Merv burger for Godai, talking to Hiroshi at the entrance, getting the keys from the security guy,
get out of my house,
running back to the mall to unlock the entrance, and then talking to Hiroshi again at the end of the mall? Padding! That's what. Anyway, the Yamada boss fight itself is actually pretty cool, probably my second favorite boss in the game. While he still has pretty easy patterns to learn, avoiding the objects that he throws at you with the
dark arts
is pretty tricky. And I love how you can punch him off of the rooftop that you're fighting on, though that can also happen to you. The fighting area itself is also a cool reference, since just like his fight in downtown Nekketsu Monogatari, you're fighting him on a rooftop. And the cutscene before the fight is neat too, showing a bit of backstory for Yamada about how he used to be friends with Kunio, which is actually pretty accurate to the lore of the series. But there is one big problem I have with this fight, and another way more annoying boss, which I'll get into later. Every time you die in a boss fight, you'll have to skip through the opening intro cutscene, the dialogue cutscene, and even the manga cutscenes for Yamada and the other boss I'll talk about later, all have to be skipped individually, every single time. It's so annoying. Why couldn't there just be a prompt when you press the start button during a cutscene saying something like, would you like to skip the cutscene? And then just skip all of them to get straight to the fight. Why do I have to awkwardly hold down the button for each cutscene just to skip it? It got really grating real fast, even during New Game Plus. Oh yeah, and you still have to do this for New Game Plus too.
I just can't do it. I can't do
take this shit!
Anyway, after defeating Yamada, your next destination is Uptown, which you go to by going through the mall a second time, but this time actually going past Hiroshi to the exit. Uptown itself is a pretty neat area to go through. There's a lot of variety with the areas you go into, like the arcade and the new stores where you can buy toys and Famicom games, but you eat them.
Damn! That shit good!
So at the start of Uptown, you run into Yoko. No, not the best girl from Gurren Lagann, but definitely the best character in this game, for obvious reasons. Anyway, she tells you that you should go to Hibari, who's a famous fashion designer, because in the picture of Kunio and Ariki getting kidnapped, there's a guy wearing one of Hibari's custom jackets. Okay, custom? It just looks like any other black leather jacket, but whatever. She tells you to go to Hibari's warehouse to maybe get some info on where Kunio and Riki are, which is conveniently in Uptown. Once you go there though, you'll just fight a couple waves of enemies and nothing really happens. Once you get out of the warehouse, Hasebe and Mami are there and they tell you that you need to bring an offering to Hibari for her to show up, which is apparently
something fancy, expensive, and gold.
Which of course means going into an underground pawn shop fighting 8 waves of enemies in a row. No, seriously, this section of the game is such a drag to go through. It's just another case of this game having padding for the sake of making the game feel longer. Once you finally get to the pawn shop though, you're greeted with probably the best cameo in the entire game, Skullmageddon.
Yeah! Welcome to my pawn shop!
Is that a talking skeleton?
Rude! You act like I'm not even here.
This is really nice to see, especially after playing Double Dragon Neon, since they actually brought back the director of that game, Sean Velasco, who also voiced Skullmageddon, to voice him in this game too. And I love his design in this game, since it's so casual looking, when in the previous game that he looked like this. His pawn shop even turns into an actual shop you can go to buy some accessories. Anyway, the reason why you're even here is to buy a fake golden cat statue to bring to Hibari's warehouse. Thankfully, the elevator is miraculously fixed once you get out of the pawn shop, which is really nice. When you use the elevator, it triggers a cutscene that shows the first time that Misako and Kyoko met, and it's honestly my favorite cutscene in the game. It's simple, but it's cool to see how the two met, and also how Mami and Hasebe have been picking on them ever since they were kids. So there's obviously been some beef with these two duos for a while. I wonder if it'll pay off. After the cutscene, we can exit this place, go to Hibari's warehouse, place it in the middle of this shrine-looking thing, and we can finally fight Hibari herself. Now, unlike the first two bosses and pretty much every other character we've seen so far, Hibari isn't a pre-existing character from the Kunio-Kun series. He's actually a totally original character. And to be honest, I really like her design. It's pretty funny how a fashion designer that makes such bright and vibrant clothes can look like Yzma's granddaughter or something. The fight itself is probably the most unique fight in the game since you only move from left to right, and most of the fight involves you dodging all of Hibari's dark arts projectiles like she's a Toho boss. Now, in order to actually damage her, you have to knock her down to the ground and just keep comboing her until she gets back up. Then just repeat the process until her health bar is fully gone. Now, when I first fought her, I thought the only way to bring her down was to make her get hit by this sword needle looking thing that she throws at you. But that's pretty hard to do since she also spawns a shield while she's aiming it at you. So you have to position yourself pretty precisely in order to hit her twice with it. But you don't have to do this, because I forgot that wall jumping exists in this game. So you can easily jump up to her when she's on the left or right and beat the ever-loving shit out of her, which is a pretty good reward for all the stuff you go through in Uptown. And this is really the only time I found wall jumping to be useful in the entire game. Using it in actual combat is pretty useless. If you're gonna introduce a mechanic, at least make it useful in multiple parts of the game instead of just one part. But I don't really mind it though, since wall jumping in a beat 'em up is just as ass as it sounds.
Why won't you die?
So after you beat Hibari, she tells you to go through her secret entrance to downtown, because according to her, the people who get kidnapped end up there. I mean, sure, yeah, they'd probably get kidnapped by all the punk rock stars in T-800s walking around. Oh yeah, I probably should have talked about the enemies a bit earlier. A lot of enemies in the series are either schoolboys or schoolgirls, biker gangs, or Yakuza members. The enemies in River City Girls, however, have pretty good variety compared to the other games. Almost too much variety though, because you can go from fighting typical typical school guys and gals to punk rock guys with giant hammers, wrestler guys that are pretty much just King from Tekken but in different colors, and robot men doing the most annoying Schwarzenegger impression you've ever heard in your life. Those are the 3 enemy types out of the 11 total that I legitimately don't like or I feel like are out of place. The rest are pretty cool, like the cheerleaders, the mascot costume girls, and delinquents with pompadours so huge that it would make Kuwabara blush. Even the Yakuza members that you fight near the end of the game are pretty cool looking too, but I'll talk about them when I get to that. Though I should also mention one thing that involves the enemies that is probably even more useless than wall jumping, the assist mechanic. Whenever you're fighting a wave of enemies to the point where there's just one enemy standing, they'll beg for mercy, and you can either beat them up or you can recruit them by pressing LB. From here, they'll appear to the right of your character's health bar, and when you press LB again, they'll appear to do a quick attack on enemies, kind of like the strikers from the KOF series. This sounds cool in concept, but in execution, it's pretty useless. Since you can do plenty of damage to a group of enemies even when you're starting out, you don't really need an assist, especially since recruiting them and using them is so janky for some reason. Sometimes it's just as easy as pressing the button as soon as you grab them, other times you'll have to keep mashing the button to do it, and other times it just doesn't work at all, which will make you wonder if the left shoulder button on your controller is broken. It's really frustrating and makes me wish this mechanic wasn't even in the game to begin with. Again, fun idea, bad execution. Anyway, downtown is a pretty neat area to go through. This and Uptown are probably my favorite areas in the game visually speaking. It also has Marion from Double Dragon appearing in one of the shops in this area. It's pretty cool that she's gonna be a playable character in the second game. After going through more areas of downtown, we run into Naritaka, voiced by Nathan Sharp, also known as Nate Wants to Battle.
Maybe he took my boyfriend Ricky.
You mean my boyfriend, Ricky?
That's what I said.
Now, this is a weird case. See, Naritaka is an original character, but he shares the first name with Nishimura Naritaka, one of the bosses from downtown Nekketsu Monogatari. Nishimura actually does appear in River City Girls as one of the shopkeepers in downtown, who, by the way, is voiced by Sungwon Cho, also known as ProZD.
Enter, please. Enjoy my wares.
Honestly, this is the only YouTuber guest star I actually don't mind in this game, since Sungwon is an actual voice actor with a pretty substantial level of roles under his belt. But why they gave Nishimura's first name to a completely new character is beyond me. Anyway, Naritaka talks about how he's been training in downtown to get stronger like his idol Riki, though that's not really important. What is important though is that Naritaka has heard rumors of a guy who lives in the abandoned subway terminals that apparently kidnaps children and TV sets. Even though Kunio and Riki definitely don't look like kids in this game, and they most certainly don't look like TV sets.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Anyway, it's possible that that guy kidnapped Kunio and Riki, so we gotta look for them. But once we arrive there, the entrance is completely filled with trash, so we're gonna have to find someone to get rid of it. Thankfully, in the junkyard, we come to this guy. Now, this guy is probably one of the most obscure characters in the series. He's only been in one game, that being Super Dodgeball for the Neo Geo, and his name is Kenji. But I guess to make it a point of how obscure he is, they don't actually say his name in this game, which is kind of funny, I guess.
Wait, don't you want to know my name?
Nope.
I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with Benji.
Totally don't care.
But I'll just be mentioning him as Kenji throughout this video since that's his actual name. Kenji says that he can move all of the trash with his crane, but there is one problem. He lost his keys in the trash compactor, so we gotta fish him out for him. The trash compactor is also apparently filled with zombies, so hey, no big deal, I just gotta beat all of these zombies that explode into pieces with just one hit. Seriously, these are probably the weakest zombies in video game history. Once we're done with the zombies, we go get the keys, but this was all pointless. Keys we got from the trash compactor weren't actually his. But hey, he actually had his keys in his pocket the entire time. God, the padding in this game is so obvious. Anyway, Kenji's crane is probably the fastest crane in the entire world because as soon as we go back to the subway entrance, all of the trash is gone and we can go inside. Once we're inside the subway terminal, it's actually pretty small. Just be careful and actually climb down to the bottom of the area instead of jumping down. When we get down to the bottom, we encounter the fourth boss, Abobo. I don't think I need to explain to you who Abobo is, even if you haven't played Double Dragon. He's one of the most iconic big dudes in video games, and seeing him as a boss in this game is great, especially since he's voiced by the legendary Patrick Seitz.
A pair of scrawny bugs sneaking into my web. What you want, bugs?
His fight is pretty fun too. He can fling himself at you, headbutt you, do a giant clap power wave, and smash the ground to make rocks fall from the ceiling. He can even pick up those larger rocks and throw them at you. By the way, if this was Abobo from Abobo's Big Adventure, he would take down Kyoko and Misako in like 5 seconds. Also, I should mention that the track in the subway area is actually a remix of the original River City Ransom / Downtown Nekketsu Monogatari theme. This is the only time you hear it in the entire game. Also, Abobo's theme is weird since it's a remix of the boss theme from that same game. Which does slap, but Abobo isn't a Kunio-Kun character. He's a Double Dragon character. It would have been better to make Abobo's theme a remix of one of the tracks from the original Double Dragon. Maybe use the track from Mission 3 for the subway area and the Mission 2 track for the actual fight. That would have worked so much better since it would fit the actual theme of fighting Abobo, one of the most, if not the most famous enemy from Double Dragon. Once you beat Abobo, he tells you that he didn't kidnap Kunio and Ricky. Surprise, surprise. But he was gonna run security at Noise's concert. Who's Noise? Well, she's a super popular musician that's performing at Ocean Heights, and Abobo says that every boy goes missing when she's around. Sure, whatever. So once we arrive in Ocean Heights and get to the entrance of the concert, Burnov tells us that we can't get in unless we get some VIP passes. Yeah, Burnov, who's another Double Dragon enemy. His cameos just keep getting stranger and stranger. So we gotta get some passes. But where do we get them? Well, thankfully there's a concierge who has a couple of them, but we gotta answer 3 questions relating to Noise: her favorite food, the name of her dog, and her hometown. Since Kyoko and Misako don't know who Noise is, we're gonna have to go find those answers. So we gotta circle around Ocean Heights again to get those answers, which takes way longer than it should. Hey, you guys like padding? I like padding. So after like 20 minutes of talking to people and looking at a sign, we get the right answers so we can finally get those VIP passes and go inside. Oh god, I'm totally looking forward to talking about my least favorite boss in this game, Noise. First of all, her design smells. Like Hibari, she's an original character made just for this game, and you can clearly tell. I mostly don't like her design because of the color choices. The mint green hair, the blinding white jacket, and the purple jean shorts. It's not really a good combination. Her casting is also kind of strange. So Megan McDuffie does the music for this game, right? Well, she also does all of the vocal tracks, including the 3 phases of Noise's boss theme. But she doesn't actually voice Noise herself. That's a huge missed opportunity in my opinion. Most importantly for consistency, but it would just also be pretty neat to have a composer of the game voice a character. It doesn't help that Noise's voice acting during the cutscenes isn't the best sounding.
Ugh, enough! I didn't steal your boyfriends, but if they ditched you to be here tonight, what else is new?
No offense to her voice actors, of course, but Noise is probably my least favorite role in this game, and that's saying something. It also doesn't help that, just like Yamada's fight, there's the animated intro, the first dialogue scene, and then a backstory manga scene with Kyoko and Noise, whose real name is Nozomi, by the way, and then another dialogue scene. I would actually appreciate the backstory with Kyoko and Noise if I could easily skip all of it if I lose the fight. Again, why not just have a pop-up that asks asks you if you want to skip all of the cutscenes. I don't want to hold down the button 3 times just to get to the fight again. Speaking of the fight, oh boy, this goddamn fight. So the main gimmick of this fight is the Guitar Hero notes that pop up all over the area when Noise is on stage. The problem is, they don't follow the music, like, at all.
Guess you are rather bored. Finally we meet. So let's give up a show. How's this heat?
This is so frustrating since you can never tell what music notes are actually going to appear. I think they're all presets, so they aren't random, but they certainly feel random. And you have to go through this 3 times over the course of the 3 phases in this fight. I've beaten this game like 4 times, and I still haven't been able to go through this fight without getting hit at least once. And it's a shame since the music in this fight is really damn good. I love how it gets more intense with each phase.
Feeling those chemicals, call the doctor. You're in trouble. How does it feel? All of that fear. How does it feel to show your face here? Your fatal mistake. Too late to back down. You wish it's over before I'm through. Your mind to break. Guess you bit off more than you could chew.
But it doesn't make up for how shitty these sequences actually are. And that's not all. Once Noise gets off of the stage, she does insane shit like swing her axe guitar at you, zoom across the arena, and then launch her axe guitar in that same pattern she zoomed around in. This phase would have actually been pretty fun to fight if it wasn't for the fans that pop out from the sides of the area that slowly run towards you. They're pretty easy to take care of since it only takes 1 hit for you to send them flying to the ceiling. This gets worse when then there's 4 and then 6, all while Noise's guitar is flying across the stage. It just makes the fight go from challenging to annoying really quickly. Once Noise is finally defeated, she tells you to go to Sanwakai Tower, which is where one of the most infamous villains from the series, Sabu, does his criminal business and things. So if there's at least one place where Kunio and Riki are, it's probably there. Oh yeah, speaking of Sabu, the main collectible you get, or at least destroy throughout the game, are a bunch of Sabu statues. There's 25 of them in the game total, and they're in random places all over the city. Some are pretty easy to spot by just walking around, while others require a little bit of looking around and jumping to other platforms to find them. I haven't gotten any footage of me breaking them since I already did that on this file. If you destroy all of them, you get the first half of a heart necklace. I'll get into how you get the second half later, but for now, let's get to Sanwakai Tower and finally finish this game. When you first show up in front of the tower, Hasebe and Mami are back for one last encounter.
We don't got time for this! Step aside. We need to find our boyfriends.
Your boyfriends?
Could they be any more clueless?
What's so funny? Kunio loves me.
Riki is mine.
Do you honestly think they'd give a pair of rejects like you two the time of day?
Why does it matter what time it is?
I don't believe it. Kunio, he likes me.
Sure he does.
And Riki is totes my BF.
Go ahead and ask him.
Oh, we will.
Tonight.
Maybe. The tower itself is a pretty neat area. It also has 2 of my favorite enemy types in the game, the Yakuza members. I just like how their hair is raised in 2 specific places, like their antennae or something. There's not really much to say about the tower itself though, except for this part. When I first got to this part, I thought you had to jump across these 2 platforms. That's really tricky since jumping in this game while running is really jank for platforming. But, like the wall jumping in Hibari's boss fight, this area uses a mechanic that the game tells you about once and then doesn't use it for most of the game, except for this part, where you climb on this leaf wall here. You do actually climb several ladders throughout the game, but this is one of the only times I think where you actually wall climb. Again, why introduce a mechanic in your game but barely do anything with it? It's really confusing. Once you reach the top, the door to Sabu is actually closed off. And as this Yakuza dude tells you, we're gonna need 4 explosives to blow up this door. So you know what that means. padding, my favorite. What would have made this better and honestly kind of funny is if the explosives were already there when you first enter the tower. So when the Yakuza guy tells you that you need to get the 4 explosives, Kyoko and Misako can just say, oh yeah, we already got those. That would have been perfectly fine, but nope, we gotta go through the entire tower again just to find them. Oh yeah, and this tower is filled with these lock encounters, as I like to call them, which is probably the worst addition to padding in this game, especially since they don't go away forever. So if you're going through an area that you've already visited, you're gonna have to go through these again. There's even one of these in the bathroom in Sanwakai Tower, which is pretty much a dead end. You know what was great about the original River City Ransom? The ability to go through the game and fight as many enemies as you want, not being locked into fighting a set of enemies like it's Double Dragon or some shit. Anyway, once we finally get all of the 4 explosives and blow up the door, we get inside and encounter our final boss, Sabuko? Yeah, Sabuko. She's apparently Sabu's daughter and she's been running the place while Sabu's in prison. She's also another original character and probably my favorite in this game. I like how quickly Kyoko and Misako are planning to just leave to go to another place when they find out Sabuko didn't actually kidnap Kunio and Riki.
Wait! We're here looking for our boyfriends! Kunio and Riki, did you take them?
What would I possibly want with a pair of high school boys?
Oh crap! Guess we better look somewhere else now.
I hope the next place has more shopping.
The boss fight itself is actually my favorite boss in the game. No gimmicky bullshit like Guitar Hero notes or bullet hell dodging, just good old-fashioned beating up Sabuko and the Yakuza members she throws at you between each phase. The phases are actually done really well, with the symbol in the background representing her attacks and how Sabuko herself has different idle animations for each phase. Really cool stuff. There isn't actually anything I don't like about this boss fight, honestly. It's pretty well designed, and Sabuko herself is fun to fight in 3 phases. Wait, have I been saying 3?
Psych!
There's actually a 4th phase that's even harder than the previous 3. Such a good fake out, too. How there isn't any KO splash screen when the 3rd phase is done like every other boss in the game. Once Sabuko's last phase is done and she's finally defeated, Kyoko and Misako do a petty but satisfying speech about love.
Just cause we're young.
And cute.
Don't mean we can't tear down this whole town to get our boyfriends back.
Wretched little girls! You should respect power when you see it!
You may have mystical tattoo creatures.
And a really sharp sword.
But that's nothing compared to the power we have.
And that is...
You wanna tell her?
Let's do it together.
The power of...
And double kick Sabuko out of the tower. But Kyoko and Misako are falling out of the tower as well, and they crash into a bathhouse, which is exactly where Kunio and Riki are.
Oh man, you were right, Riki. A trip to the spa's just what we needed.
I agree, Kunio. It is relaxing.
Huh?
Ah! It's girls! Look away!
The spa's for men only.
Understandably, Kyoko and Misako are infuriated by this, though Kunio and Riki barely recognize them and talk about how cool Hasebe and Mami are. And then Kyoko and Misako just punch Kunio and Riki into orbit. And that's it.
Well, that was a load of shit.
Wait. It's not over yet. Remember the heart necklace I was talking about earlier? Well, you get the second half by beating Sabuko. You also have the option of playing Kunio and Riki after you beat the game and New Game Plus, where you go through the entire game again, but keeping all your money, equipment, food, and level progress. Though you can also still roam around your regular game if you missed any collectibles like the Sabu statues I mentioned earlier, which is pretty nice. For New Game Plus gameplay-wise, there honestly isn't anything too different aside from a completely new collectible, these cats. Unlike the Sabu statues, they're in completely different spots. And what do you get for getting all of them? An accessory that gives you unlimited SP. Alright, sure. Then again, SP is so easily replenishable that it's kinda pointless. Kunio and Riki are really sick as playable characters though. The animation for their moves makes them my favorite characters to play. I just wish there was more to playing them though, because everything is unchanged. It would have been cool if the story was the same, but the roles will be reversed, just like the good old days. And I'd love to see see Kunio and Ricky interacting with each other and trash-talking all the bosses. And it sucks because Greg Chun and Kaiji Tang are the perfect voice actors for Kunio and Ricky, respectively. There's so much potential to do something more with them. At least they're gonna be returning as playable characters in River City Girls 2, so maybe we can actually see them interact in the story. I guess the reason why there isn't anything new is because you can mix in all 4 of the playable characters, so you can have Kunio and Kyoko in the same run in co-op, for example. It wouldn't make any sense since Kunio and Ricky appear at the end of the game, so that is understandable, but why not just get rid of all of the dialogue? It's really weird going through the game on New Game Plus as Kunio or Ricky and still hearing Kyoko and Misako talking to each other like nothing's changed, especially since dialogue can pretty much just hinder you from going through certain parts of the game if they're still talking to each other. Also, the cutscenes are still the same, so you'll have to skip through all of them. Again, it makes zero sense if you're playing as Kunio or Ricky. It's also annoying how some dialogue scenes are activated by pressing a button near an NPC, or it'll just happen by walking next to them, but that's just more of a problem with the game itself overall and not with New Game Plus specifically, so I'm getting a little off track. Let's get back on track though by talking about one of the newest additions to New Game Plus that also really ruins the game for me on a story level. So, equipping the M charm from destroying all of the Sabu statues and also the H charm for beating Sabuko and entering Sabuko's boss room in Sanwakai Tower will allow you to fight the actual final boss, Hasebe and Mami. So, this fight really fucks up the story more than it should. Firstly, they basically give zero explanation on why Hasebe and Mami are even here despite the build-up and the rivalry through Kyoko and Misako and Hasebe and Mami through the entire game. And it could have easily been summed up as Hasebe and Mami going inside of the tower themselves after Kyoko and Misako, but getting to Sabuko's room and most likely sealing the door. But what's the explanation they actually give in the cutscene before the fight starts? Well,
look who it is, Mommy.
I thought this place emptied the trash on Mondays.
Guess not.
What are you two doing here?
We could ask you the same question.
Yeah, don't tell us where we can and can't go.
But it doesn't make any sense.
Sabuko's supposed to be the final boss, right?
We kick her through the window.
I'm very confused right now.
this ruins the entire game's story and the build-up with Hasebe and Mami on so many levels. Firstly, why deliberately break the fourth wall and say, wow, this isn't supposed to happen, Sabuko's supposed to be here? What makes this even worse is that this fight actually could have made sense. How? By making you fight Hasebe and Mami after fighting Sabuko. Not only would that be a great twist, but it would also give the M and H charms a purpose in the story, since it would make sense why Hasebe and Mami would be sort of following Kyoko and Misako through the game. Also, you know what would have been a better way of getting the charms instead of destroying all of the Sabu statues and beating Sabuko? Doing Godai's side missions! They would actually have a purpose aside from money and XP gain, because it would make Godai an actually important part of the story. Godai in this game is seen as a guy that keeps tabs on everyone in River City, so his side missions could actually imply that he's making Kyoko and Misako do malicious acts toward the Yakuza for his own gains, or just fuck with them since Godai is that crazy. Sabuko would actually notice this and try to find anyone who knows Kyoko and Misako to take them out, which would be Hasebe and Mami. They would be spies for Sabuko while also trying to prove themselves better than Kyoko and Misako as Kunio and Riki's real girlfriends. Kyoko and Misako obviously wouldn't know about this until the end when they arrive at Sanwakai Tower and encounter Sabuko. If you did all of the missions for Godai, Sabuko would say that she's gonna defeat them for all of those acts against the Yakuza that they quote-unquote caused when they were just doing what Godai told them. And of course, after beating Sabuko, Hasebe and Mami would show up and reveal their own plans and proving themselves as better girlfriends, and the fight between these two rival duos would ensue. In my opinion, this would have worked out so much better than what we ended up getting. Anyway, the actual boss fight itself is pretty neat. Not as much as Sabuko, but it is still pretty fun. You basically fight two bosses in a row, with each of the girls doing combos and sometimes special moves, either solo or even together. You know, it would have been cool if you could play as Hasebe and Mami as unlockable characters to add even more replay value, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The two special moves Mami and Hasebe can do after part of their health bar is gone is spinning together while jumping around the area, and Hasebe using Mami to roll around the area Billy Hatcher style. Just like Sabuko, there's a fourth phase if you defeat one of the girls. I didn't really see any difference in gameplay on which one you beat first though, so pick which one you think has the most punchable face. In my case, it was Hasebe that went down first. Once they go down, the other girl that's still alive will unleash unleash their anger in a fiery pillar and become way more stronger. In this case, it was Mami. This time you don't actually hit the girl that's still alive. No, that would make too much sense. Instead, you have to hit the angel sprite of the girl that's dead, which is just like the angel sprites you see in co-op when one of the characters dies. Now, why you have to beat the girl that already died to beat the other one, I have no idea. But it would have made this phase way less time consuming if you just fought the other girl that's actually alive. But nah, the developers of this game just love their padding even when it's the final boss. Once Mami and Hasebe are finally defeated, we get a dialogue scene to close it out, which is honestly even worse than the one before the fight with unnecessary fourth wall breaking once again.
Are you crazy? They barely remember you.
Yeah, you guys dated them for like one 16-bit game.
It wasn't even released in the USA!
Talk about obscure.
And it doesn't even sync up with the new ending, which starts out the same as the original ending.
We did it!
Should we still kick them out the window?
Why not?
I still have no idea if this was intentional or not, but it still makes me raise an eyebrow. But the rest of the new secret ending is actually good this time, which is really surprising. It ends on a really good note with Kyoko and Misako being back with their BFs.
We thought you were kidnapped, Ricky Poo!
Kidnapped? As if. What made them think that?
No idea. Come on, let's get out of here.
I'm starving. Let's get a Merv burger. You girls want to join us?
A much better ending than the original, but how we even got to this ending still makes me sad about the way better climax we could have had. So those are my own main thoughts on the game, but I do have a little bit of surprise for you all. I'll be doing a short little talk about the game with my good friend and fellow fan of the Kunio-Kun games, BrothaKyo. Go check him out on Twitter at BrothaKyo and on twitch.tv/BrothaKyo. He's a really cool dude. So just before, I just want to say just before, like, before I even came up, I was listening to the mixtape things from Double Dragon Neon. I fucking love those.
So good.
I fucking love those things. Anyway, yeah. So River City Girls. I was originally gonna have maybe like a list, just like a list of questions for you to answer, but that's really fucking boring. I want to be like, I want it to be like sort of like improvised. If that's
Yeah,
all right
no,
with
of
you.
course, yeah. That's usually the best kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would want to ask about this game is, what are your favorite parts about it?
Oh man, where do I even begin? Like, holy crap, that's a loaded question. Where do I even begin? Like, for one, the fact they take a really cool evolution to probably one of the most legendary like franchises of all time and add so much cool stuff to it. Like a mix of both beat 'em up and fighting game like mechanics, which I guess in a way the two kind of go together hand in hand. And like between that, the graphics, especially like the very like fluent like animations that are done for each character where they just express themselves as you do in the Kunio-Kun franchise.
Yeah, no. KU, I follow them on Twitter. They did a fucking fantastic job on just like everything, sprite work related. It seems like, this is kind of going into RCG too. It seems like all 6 of the characters are gonna be like unlocked from the start, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's gonna be really nuts. Which I guess is the proper way to kind of continue on from, I guess in a way, continuing from what the first game's narrative was. Like, now that, and it's spoiler to a lot of people, you unlock the original hot-blooded boys from downtown Nekketsu. Nekketsu, jeez.
Downtown Nekketsu, or I guess like, well, they did first appear in like Nekketsu, Koha, Kunio-Kun.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, excuse me, I meant Renegade.
You're Renegade. What were some other things that you liked about it?
Another thing that I really like about that, about River City Girls, the callbacks that they did to well over at that point like 30 years of, and not just Kunio-Kun, but like Techno's properties in general.
Oh yeah, there's like a shit ton of cameos. I only mentioned like a couple.
Because there were just like a lot of things, but I'm like, I never expected, well, combat tribes of all things. But,
yeah, no, I
whatever,
didn't even.
I'll take it. No, it was insane because like I was streaming with a friend, and that's all I was doing like the entire stream. Whenever we just found the cameo, I was like, "Oh, dude, look,
dude, it's fucking burn off."
Yeah, I'm like, dude, I know that it's burn off. He's like, who?
Like who?
Yeah, and then the other person I streamed it with, since he's like a huge Double Dragon fan like I am, he's just like, bro, is that fucking burn off? I'm like, yeah, no, dude,
Yeah.
keep watching, it gets better.
Yeah. The dialogue scenes for RCG1 are pretty fun to go back to. Especially with like the conversation that like Kyoko Masako have with Burnov. Burnov is just fucking hilarious in that game. I love him.
Like just the way that he is on that, I'm like, I expected one thing, but I'm like, oh, you know what? That was a cool rug pull, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the conversation they have is like so damn natural, and it's so great.
Yeah, that's great. Just like most of the voice acting in general is really good in that game.
It's really beautiful. Like just to hear, and especially like and what I like to call like YouTuber induced like YouTuber infused voice acting.
Yeah, there's like there's like Aaron and Danny voicing Billy and Jimmy.
Yeah.
Then there's like Nate Wants to Battle voicing Naritaka.
Yeah,
you
have like Jacksepticeye as Godai.
I did actually. Well, we'll get to the things that I don't like about it.
Fair.
I think like the one cameo that I do like, the one YouTube cameo I do like is like ProZD as Nishimura because he fits him super well.
Cool. He does. That was so cool.
Yeah.
Like when I found out who that was, I'm like, oh, dude, no way.
I knew him as a YouTuber, but before he became like a current voice actor. He's great.
Which is funny because that was kind of the funny thing with Kyoko's voice actress.
Kira Buckland.
Back when she was called Rina-chan.
On Newgrounds.
Way back then, yeah. So, because I used to do a podcast where like, and that's how I met her, was to a friend of mine when we had her on the podcast. And so just after that, like we just kind of kept in touch and just seeing her just like score roll after roll, I'm just like, yo, that's so sick.
Yeah.
Because like stuff where she's like, you have no idea how long I've been wanting to say that I was doing this. And I'm like, oh god.
Yeah. The whole like dynamic with Kyoko Masako is like super good. That's definitely the best aspect of the game when it comes to writing. It is the interactions between Kyoko Masako.
It's great, like just seeing the two characters who are clearly like amazing best friends. Just you know, and especially when you start learning more and some hefty material as far as like character storytelling goes, like into their past and everything. Like you can tell what's written for a joke and other things where I'm just like, this went a little bit deeper than I thought it would.
Yeah, I have mentioned it in the video, but the manga cutscene where like Kyoko and Masako like first meet, that is my favorite cutscene in the whole game. It's so good.
I love it. It's great, and then just a follow-up conversation right afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like instead of just like lingering more on just what they were talking about, like Masako just being as cool as she is, just kind of shrugs up like, yeah, I know. Kyoko's
like, you're so cool, Masako. Masako's like, tell me something I don't know.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Yeah. But going to things that I personally like, I think Yamada and Sabako are my two favorite bosses in the game.
Yes. Oh my god. Yamada was really cool. Like, actually, I like as far as presentation goes, I do love Yamada and how he was like introduced into that, and then just kind of how they went into like a little bit of how he's just being like a weird little creepo.
Yeah, about how he used to be like friends with Kunio.
Which, if you do follow the series,
it is lore accurate, which I do really like a lot.
That's the crazy thing about it. I'm like, even though this is clearly like kind of a, I guess, sequel / soft reboot of things, the fact that they keep certain character interactions and like relationships and whatnot, I think is a really high point. And I know it's such a like superficial, like on the surface. Like I thought that was like really cool. And especially it helps that like Rudis is a huge fan of the series. Clearly,
yeah. Like he worked on River City Ransom Underground, which I do mention in the video.
And in Sabako, that's a very fun boss fight.
Yeah, she's definitely my favorite boss in the game because like because there's no dumb gimmicks like with like Hibari and Noise's boss fights. It's just good old fashioned like beating the shit out of her.
Yeah, like take everything that you remembered up to this point and can you do this without getting your shit slapped?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that too. I'm like, good, no gimmicks, just good old fashioned, clean, sort of not clean fighting.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like that fight a lot, especially like how it actually has 4 phases and it pretty much just like teases you out.
Yeah.
And it's I do mention in the video, but it's a really good detail how like whenever you finish the 3rd phase, it doesn't do like the KO splash screen. It's just like silent.
I remember the first time that I did that, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, you're like, oh no.
Oh no. And like at the time too, I had like only like 3 bits of health.
Yeah.
And I was playing it by myself, so I'm like, oh come on, give me a break.
Yeah.
Maybe I have a pocket lasagna. I do not have a pocket lasagna. I'm screwed.
Dude, like for the run I did for the video, I basically like packed my inventory full of lasagna before the fight.
Nice.
So I was totally prepared. I love how lasagna is like one of the best food items in the game.
It is
because it's super late.
Yeah, right. And like it feels so well earned too. Because I'm like, wait, this is the item that's gonna actually get like an entirety of my health back.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. Let me just put my money to this. And like put my money to that and the 2 secret items in the game.
Oh
that once you find that, my god.
I forgot to put it in the script, but I did have footage of me going into that secret shop, which is a really cool Easter egg.
That was a real cool throwback too.
Yeah.
Oh, what else did I like about? Oh man, the soundtrack's great.
Yeah.
Megan McDuffie, and I'll say it's probably my first time hearing who she is because like I know she's been in like a lot of different things that I've played in the past, but this one was where I'm just like, oh, so this is the person that I've been like listening to this whole time.
Yeah.
And especially like my favorite track, which is simply titled Detention on the soundtrack, like the beginning track after you tell Mr. Rudis to like cram it or whatever and then just like go into it.
Yeah.
and by that I mean Mr. Rudis, the teacher, not so much the
nice
and kind director who's worked on this game.
Yeah. Yeah, RCG1 was the game where I discovered her, and I fucking love the. I love pretty much like every song in the game. I don't really have like a track that I would consider bad, honestly.
Not saying, yeah, like every song, I can't say a bad thing. Yeah. Every song just had something that I really liked about it. And of course, there are like certain tracks where I'm like, this is gonna be on repeat for a while.
Yeah, I've been using the soundtrack of the game for background music in the video, and it's great to listen to all of them, and like choosing which track fits in with the certain part of the game was pretty fun to figure out.
Yeah, like, and again, like not a single track misses.
Yeah,
and,
no.
Another good example, you know what? And okay, one thing I really do like is, and again, going back to like throwbacks and nostalgia and blah blah blah. There is a track, I believe it's called "Don't Give a Dot," which is
Don't Give a
throwback to the downtown Nekketsu theme. Which I really love.
I do mention it in the video, and also how like a Abobo's theme is a remix to a Tough Fight, which is the boss theme in that game.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Even though it doesn't really fit with Abobo since he's not a Kunio-Kun character, but you know it's still good. I honestly think that like I feel like the boss of Downtown was gonna be like somebody that did appear in Downtown Nekketsu. I assumed that like it was gonna be like Kobayashi or something.
See, and I was thinking about that too because like I'm sitting there as I go through just like every little bit of like knowledge of the characters that I'm like remember like who could it be? Could it be this? Could it be that? I'm like it can't be Sabu. Sabu's in jail, right? He's still
Yeah, no.
right?
Well, I mean, I think in like Kunio Tachi no Banka, it's implied that like Sabu fucking dies.
Yes, it is actually.
Yeah. So like.
Yeah.
Like Sabuko doesn't specifically explain what happened to Sabu, so you never know.
Will probably be like playing it off, just like he's
indisposed.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure he died.
Yeah,
but,
no, yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's like the fucking he's a fucking like part of the Yakuza, so he probably has some way of living.
Yeah, I mean, look, Streets of Rage never. See, Mr. X died several times in Streets of Rage.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, and I think he like finally dies at the end of Streets of Rage 3.
Yeah, he dies in 3, and then like in 4 they recover his brain or something like.
Oh
as
yeah.
an excuse to like make new stages.
Oh yeah, because that was like part of like the Mr. Nightmare DLC in SO4.
Yeah. Which that shit was so sick, by the way.
Yeah, that was great. Playing through all like the classic bosses and stages.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really like pretty much all the way through is like the tension between Kyoko Masako and Hasebe and Mami, how they're sort of like rivals.
Oh my god, like
that was built up so well.
When I saw from the very beginning what was going to happen, I'm like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see. Huh. And then when you earn the secret items to unlock a certain fight in there, I'm like, oh man. And then they say the same thing that I was thinking. I'm like, I mean, technically, Hasebe and Mami's not in the wrong on this.
Yeah.
They're technically not in the wrong. I feel like I said this to a friend of mine too, where I'm like, are we the Contra? It was a moment of us just sitting there. I'm like, dude, I think we're the Contra.
Yeah.
I think it sucks, but I had to stop and think like, oh no.
Yeah, like
I'm the bad.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I'm the crazy bitch. Oh no.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Aside from the fucking like 180 the game turns into, because I'll mention it when we get to the things that irk me personally.
Yeah.
But is that about it for what you like, or can you mention something else?
I'm actually digging that instead of just saying generally, oh, I love everything. This is great. It's perfect. Because I'm like, I'm sure this has been really stood out for me. The art direction's great. The music's great. The game itself is great. Jesus Christ. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I guess just the whole, like, and I know it's definitely a quote-unquote linear game on the surface. I mean, on the surface, it's open world, but like when you go through and you know how to go through it, it's definitely a linear game.
It definitely is very linear.
Yeah,
like, progression.
Yeah. But like, I love just how I can just like just travel from one area to another and like start doing it. It's cool. I like it. And again, it's just classic River City Ransom, classic downtown. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, how about we go into the things that we don't like about it? Because I have a lot to say, honestly.
Oh man.
I've already said it in the video, so.
And it's like this too, because like I love the game a lot. I love it a lot. That being
like it too.
said, yeah, there's definitely some things after my honeymoon period, like finally ended. I'm like, okay, there's some things that kind of irked me a bit.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that.
Okay then. So one thing for sure, and this is such a little small petty point that I'm sure they're gonna fix in the next game. When I'm playing Kunio and or Ricky, And as much as I love the dialogue and the cutscenes from the original campaign, can you personalize it with the actual main character of the series when I actually
Yeah, I brought that up exactly in my video.
Okay.
That pisses me off, honestly, because like when I beat the game for the first time and you unlock Kunio and Ricky, and I was like, oh cool, and then I go to New Game Plus and I play them and like literally nothing's changed, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And especially since like the cutscenes and like all the dialogue cutscenes are still intact, and it's like, what? Like, why am I just like playing through the game again, but like nothing's changed? I'm playing as Kunio, not fucking Kyoko.
Now, it does help that in retrospect, I guess, like Rudis did say that, yeah, like Kunio and Ricky were like literally last minute.
Oh, really?
Additions. Like they were thrown in just like right there, which is why he even feels that as far as movesets go, they were far from complete, but now that they're working on a second game, they can now like realize how busted Ricky can actually be.
Oh yeah,
like,
dude. I think
what I saw.
Yeah, one of the things that irks me a lot is that like skipping the cutscenes, especially for the boss fights, takes way longer than it needs to.
Yeah, I agree.
So since you have to like skip like everything individually, and I bring it up in the video, but like specifically Yamada and Noise are like such a drag to fight, especially when you die and have to like start the fight over.
And it blows too, because like you have to go through that all over again. Yeah. And it's like first you go like you have the visual novel chat, and then you have the comic.
Yeah,
like panel.
Then you have the manga scene, and then another dialogue cutscene.
I'm like, oh,
you have to skip, and you have to hold the skip button through all of them individually.
Yeah, like there's a point
sucks.
where I found myself going,
yeah, I did.
Like, I just want to beat some ass already.
Yeah, and it's just speaking of wanting to like beat some ass, I fucking hate the lock encounters.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That is something that just does. Oh god. It's just something that does not feel right to me. Sometimes.
It doesn't. Like at all. This isn't Double Dragon.
Yeah. Like I hope they change this up in the second game. Yeah. And I guess I wouldn't even say it's just like a nitpick. That actually affects like the flow of combat.
It totally does, especially when with like the lock encounters, and also like during scenes where Kyoko and Masako are still talking, you literally can't like go into doors, and you can't even skip it. It's really weird.
It's like I have glitched through them a few times, or rather, it's glitched on me a few times.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, it is what it's going to be. They've addressed it for the most part. Well, like, so that's like week one problems right there.
Yeah.
And another thing that like, what bothered me? Do I say Godai missions? Do I really say that? That seems petty on my part, but
no, it's fine. I totally fucking agree that those missions are like so pointless, honestly.
It just, and I get it. I understand. I don't get it. And I don't understand. I don't think it's a matter of fact, I don't think it's a good use of that character.
Yeah, no.
I think about it.
Yeah, I am gonna mention in the video that like I think I'll just mention here also. So so you know how at the beginning of the game where like Kyoko gets like a mysterious text message of like a picture of Kunio and Ricky getting quote unquote kidnapped?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Wayforward's Twitter basically revealed that Godai sent that message.
Okay, well
and it's like what, really?
Is that how we actually find that out?
It's not even brought up in the game at all. It's just like, and there's like no clues or no indication or like no like implication. It's like, really? Like, okay. Good job, Wayforward.
And god damn, that bothered the shit out of me.
Yeah,
I'm like, who sent this, by the way?
Yeah, it's really bad, honestly.
Okay, if we're gonna kind of go into that territory, let's talk about and I'll say the original ending of the game.
Oh yeah, I fucking hate the original ending.
Oh man, like you know how I mentioned earlier how I'm just like, am I the fucking Contra?
Yeah.
Dude, that got multiplied by 5.
Yeah.
When that original dialogue happened, like, this was a pointless game.
It basically was.
So the 2 characters
that we've been following through the entire game are just fucking crazy, or just like oblivious.
Yeah, they're just. Oh man, and I can tell. I figured that a lot of people were like, well, you know, in real life, some people deal with that, and you can't just portray that way forward. You can't show people it's okay to be a fucking psycho and say, I get everything I want, even though it's not real.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm exaggerating that, but I guess they heard and they're like, oh shit, you know what?
Yeah. I think like they basically changed the original ending to the new secret ending that you get when you beat Hasebe and Mami, which I do like. I like that ending so much more.
It's a much more satisfying ending for
It
sure.
is.
And especially where you have Kunio just like, of course we didn't get kidnapped. Who do you think I am?
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. It's like, what the hell you think I am, dude? Come on.
Yeah.
I'm motherfucking Kunio.
Yeah.
Yo,
I just want.
I'm starving. Let's get a burger.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, Kunio is just fucking. This is like, he's gonna have like a Kamino moment. It's like, who the hell do you think I am? Oh
That
yeah.
whole ending thing. I'm like, oh no. I'm just a walking punchline. That sucks.
Yeah. God.
Sorry, girls. You're a psycho.
Yeah. Like, hey, let's go talk to Hasebe and Mami. They're cool. It's like, god damn it.
Right? I'm just like, oh, that. One of those things there's like, if you're in high school playing this game, oh, that's not gonna help you the next day.
Yeah,
let me
no.
tell you. You're
It's
like,
not.
am I actually an Uggo?
An Uggo?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, they'll be like, oh, sorry, we can't talk to you. You're ugly, and your boyfriend likes us, and L, plus ratio, plus you're from a Japanese-only game that never came out over here.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Speaking of,
I did giggle. I did giggle of that.
Speaking of that, I want to talk about like 2 of the dialogue cutscenes in the Hasebe and Mami fight, because those bother me like so fucking much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah. So, do you remember? Do you remember what they say in those endings, or in those cutscenes rather?
For the most part.
Yeah. Basically what happens is like, it's so goddamn like annoying to me. It's like it's like you know, like Kyoko and Misako go into Sabuko's like room or whatever,
Okay,
and it's it's Hasebe and Mami, and they're like, whoa, Sabuko's supposed to be here, isn't it? It's like, what?
Okay, yeah. So that kind of doesn't sit well with me.
Definitely doesn't sit well with me. I fucking hated that.
I'm like, okay, and I appreciate a good fourth wall break. Don't get me wrong, but I fucking watched Gintama. But yeah, right. Like, what if it is your first time playing through that game and you just happen to like get everything and collect every single thing, and it's like, well, Sabuko's supposed to be here. I'm like, based off of what context though, right?
Well, I mean, you do get one of like the heart locket things from beating Sabuko.
Okay, yeah.
And then you get the other one for destroying all of the Sabu statues, which
That's what
honestly,
it was,
I am gonna mention. I did mention it in the video, but like, I really wish that getting the H charms, getting the H and M charms would have been so much better if they were tied to doing all of the Godai missions.
You would think. See, thank you. Okay, so hence why I'm like, I really hate the Godai mission.
Yeah, no, and especially since especially since Godai is probably like my least favorite character in that game.
Oh, dude, you're not the only one. Everyone that I play the game with are just like, dude, I fucking hate you.
It fucking sucks too because Godai in the other Kunio-Kun games, he's like a little crazy, but he's also sort of likable. But like Godai is just like a fucking creep, dude.
Yeah, like he's got his charms for sure. Like in the original games, like in that sort of God don't touch me, but I can appreciate you existing in my world kind of way.
Yeah, that's pretty much how he is in like Rival Showdown.
Yeah, and this one I could really do without if that's not the rudest thing I've said about him.
And given with how I do mention in the video, but like a way better ending would be to have he basically like the whole plot of the game would basically, or like I guess like the twist leading up to it was that like Godai sends the text message to Kyoko anonymously, and then Godai shows up and tells them to do all this shit relating to the Yakuza because he either has like ties with them or just wants to fuck with them because he's that crazy. And then Sabako is like, oh, these little girls are doing this malicious stuff. Who am I gonna get to stop them? And then she gets in contact with Hasebe and Mami. And they basically would basically like just keep an eye out on Kyoko Masako because you see them multiple times throughout the game.
Yeah, you do. Just kind of like chilling at places. And
yeah, quote unquote chilling.
Yeah.
and then what I think would have made the Hasebe and Mami fight so much better is if you fought them after you beat Sabako.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Yeah, like actually having that fight go on. Yeah. No, that would have actually made a lot more sense.
It would have, yeah. I didn't mean to cut off. It was just like, it's the same ordeal. Like if you get all 7 Chaos Emeralds, it would be your Doomsday Zone. It would, yeah.
It would be your unlockable like fight after you get everything. That would have made more sense to me. I would have actually liked that a lot better.
It would have, especially since like finding all of the Sabu statues is like really like it just felt really pointless to me. Like
it took me a bit. Some of them are like way. You have to go like way out of your.
Yeah, no. Some of them are honestly like way too hidden.
Yeah, and again, I can like appreciate that. At the same time, like when you're having to teach yourself how to like wall jump and then like dash and then kick all at the same time.
Yeah,
just so you can like get the one thing that's kind of out of the place here.
Yeah, aside from like the Habari boss fight, I have no idea if you even use wall jumping in the entire game aside from that fight. Like, it's honestly, yeah.
I cannot recall an instance.
Yeah, no, because
I'm like, oh
boy, I completely.
I'm glad this is natural.
Yeah, well, yeah. When I first fought Hibari, I thought you had to make her get hit by her like sword needle thing, twice, which would break her shield and then hit herself. But nope, you can just wall jump back there, and it's like, what?
Oh, dude, that took me like, I'm so.
It took me way longer than it needed to figure that out.
It was especially since third playthrough where I'm like, wait a minute, I can just wall jump and kick you.
That was pretty much with me too. It's like, what? Like,
what I did is one of those things where like I break the fourth wall in real life. Where when I find that out, I pause, look at the fourth wall, who the hell is watching me? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
To go back and play the game silently, I'm like, this.
Yeah,
sucks.
I'm like, oh my god. I really hope that there are more like traditional bosses in RCG too, because like whenever they try to do a gimmick with a boss fight, it seems like it doesn't really go that well. Specifically with Hibari and Noise.
Yeah, like the Noise. Like I love Noise as a character.
I don't, honestly.
Oh shit. I say fair.
Yeah.
To each their own. But like,
I don't really like her. I don't really like her as a character, and I also don't really like her design that much.
Ah, boo! I thought that was a cool design.
Her theme is awesome, though.
Oh, yeah,
her like boss theme that goes through all the different phases.
Oh, that's
pretty
sick. Cool. Yeah.
But like the boss fight itself is so bad.
I don't like it.
Yeah,
I always dread when I have to go.
Yeah,
when I know it's next, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna shut my brain off and just pray to God that I get hit as seldomly as I can.
especially since like those Guitar Hero notes do not follow the music. They don't.
Nope.
At all. It's
they
fucking ridiculous.
And that was like the first thing I asked myself when I was playing. I'm like, oh, please tell me that there's some sort of rhythm. Nope.
Yeah,
okay.
nope.
I'm just gonna guess.
Well, when they're all they're like all of the phases are preset, so you can like go through that without getting hit at least once, I think. But I haven't, and I've beaten the game like 4 times.
I almost did, but then like I think I overthought something. I overthought a jump, fucked up, and then I started like bouncing over the place. I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah, and like
not like this.
Yeah, the like that like whole boss fight is basically just like a no damage run ruiner because there's so much shit in it.
Yeah.
There's like Noise herself, and then like her guitar that's like flinging all over the place, and then the fans that like pop up and slowly run towards you, and then the fucking like green like electric balls that also slowly fly towards you. It's a fucking mess.
Oh right, yeah. Like, man, I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I mean,
if they try to do something like that again in the second game, please don't.
Yeah, no, please. Like,
please don't.
Yeah, please. I just want traditional beat 'em up bosses. God damn it! Like just do what like Double Dragon Neon did.
Oh my god! Oh.
But pretty much all of the bosses in Neon are like super well designed because they're designed around the fact that you're in like a beat 'em up situation.
Yeah, they're so well done in that. Like straight to the point. Just hey, let's as long as you know a pattern. Well, I mean, there's like a few stages where that's not the case, but for the most part, there's a certain pattern or so that you just need to learn, you need to know, and bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
The fight won't be super irritating or something like that. But Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no. I will mention one thing that I do mention it pretty early on, but like I don't really like how River City Girls sort of mixes and matches the two like localizing things for both Kunio-Kun and River City. It's like what?
Yeah, that was something like kind of like was thinking about too. I'm like, so this is like one of those tellings where it's just. We just kind of like just take everything from, be it like overseas or not, and just kind of mush into one.
Yeah. There's like a few Renegade references and like a few Crash, and there's like one reference relating to Crash and the Boys.
Yeah.
Which okay, whatever. But whenever you get to the stuff where like how like the burger shops is still called like the Murph Burger and not the Tech Burger.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that, and I understand.
Yeah,
like I get that they're trying to like make it up. Well, and I hate to say it like this, a quote unquote more believable world.
Yeah,
one that hey, you and Kyoko and Masako live in the same world. Whoa,
yeah,
it is very believable and very marketable.
It is. It's. Especially since how Provy is going to be in RCG2, who was a playable character in Underground.
I was wondering about that too, where I'm just like, well, if everything's based off of the whole Alex and Ryan telling us stuff,
then where the fuck are Alex and Ryan?
Is that gonna be the twist?
Is the oh my twist? I was talking about this with a friend where like so you know how in like River City Girls 2, I think it was Kyoko, she basically gets a cartridge of Tashi no Banka from like Skullmageddon from his pawn shop, and it's like this? I really hope this is non-canon, but I think it might be.
I don't know if you played through
I have played through it. I have played through it. Especially since how the ending relates to like to a to be continued thing. It's like, is this gonna tie into RCG2 somehow? Like, what?
Because there was this whole thing where, and especially the whole, and again, a bit of spoilers, but the whole thing where Kyoko's like, did we really get shot?
Yeah.
She's trying to like check her torso, looking for like any gunshots. Which I'm like, okay, that's definitely a thing she would do. It's like,
It's like,
were we killed?
yeah, I was talking about this with a friend where like, is River City gonna go through like this like multiverse plot bullshit?
No, don't do that. No. I'm so sick of multiverses.
God, yeah.
No. Stop making everything to a fucking Marvel movie. This sucks. Don't
So
do
bad, dude. Like it definitely seems like a possibility.
I'm scared.
Like I can sort of see like River City and also like the setting of Underground being in the same world, but except they're like in the same. Except they're in the same world, but they're in like different countries. Like how Underground obviously takes place in America.
Okay, I can kind of see that. Like, and I was wondering about that too. I'm like, dude, like, actual Alex and Ryan would show up and be like, hey, we're like you guys. What's going on? They're like, whoa, they're like us. What's going on? Yeah.
Like, oh god, I really hope it's like that and not some like multiverse bullshit.
Please no multiverse bullshit. And you know what the thing is? They do have like branching paths in the next game.
Oh yeah.
I've heard about that. So like, I don't want a multiverse.
Me neither. I really hope this is gonna be like alternate level paths instead of just like twists and shit and different endings.
I do. I'm pretty sure they'll do like the alternate level path like that. That just sounds cool in general, right? Like that has to be that, right?
Yeah. There's definitely got to be like probably like twice the amount of bosses from the original game. I definitely think there's gonna be way more areas.
Yeah, like he was very careful with what he was trying to say, trying to not like spoil stuff. Because he's like, oh, I'm trying to see what I can get away with saying and stuff I don't want to like, you know, surprise you with yet and whatnot. But there's gonna. Oh, what was it? Like he did hint that it's gonna be a long game. So.
Oh yeah. It definitely seems like it will.
Yeah, boy, that's all I wanted to hear.
and also how like all of like the advertising, I think when they showed off more gameplay in like the Indie World presentation, they did mention that there's gonna be a return of a familiar foe, and it's like, who's that gonna be?
That's true. You know what? Maybe River City Girl Zero was like setting this up.
Yeah,
maybe,
no, like
maybe Sabu will come back from the dead.
like what is he gonna be like? Oh god, who was like the main villain from like the first Final Fight game that dies?
Belger.
Yeah, Belger. Is this gonna be like a Final Fight revenge situation where like Sabu comes back as a fucking zombie?
Zombie Sabu, yeah.
Yeah, zombie Sabu.
It could be worse. No, go full in on it. Like, do this whole thing and then like do a third game that's just essentially like a 5-year time skip. And you just make it like River City, like Girls Streetwise. Even give it a clunky 3D combat. Be like, it's not a bug, it's a reference.
Yeah, and
not with the reference.
Make it hyper realistic and make it 3D.
And make them just say the fuck word like every 3 seconds. All right, like just like God, like Kunio's just like driving a motorcycle and like
running over people.
Yeah, and they're like, why don't you watch her go? And Kunio's like, hey, fuck you. Just go full like El Dante on them.
Yeah. Like, oh my god. I'm definitely having like low expectations for RCG2 story-wise. I definitely think it's gonna be like way better than the original game, but I'm honestly afraid of how the story's gonna go.
Well, with everything we're seeing now, I'm like, you know, I'm laughing, but at the same time, I'm like, oh no, maybe that could actually happen.
Same here. It's like, oh god, what the fuck?
Yeah, I was just trying to like meme, but I'm like, oh no. Am I Nostradamus? Is this gonna actually happen? I'm gonna cry. This is real. Oh no. Like, you know, it's a fair thing to kind of be scared of.
Yeah.
It's whatever. It's normal for like people to be scared of shit.
Yeah. I guess that might be it. If we don't want to go any more further on specific things, I think I pretty much said all I need to say. I pretty much said all I need to say in my own video. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're just getting a perspective from me.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Now, I don't want you to think that I hate this game, because I really don't. It's clear that Wayforward put a ton of time and effort into making this game, and it really shows. The sprite work and animation is phenomenal, the voice acting is great, the animated and manga cutscenes are a sight to behold, and the gameplay itself is pretty satisfying, as a beat 'em up should. But the faults I mentioned throughout the game prevent me from liking it way more than I want to. The story falling apart once you start thinking about it, how the story aspect felt like it wasn't a big focus at all, the bizarre casting choices, the frustrating design choices for some of the bosses, the wasted potential of what could have been a great climax, and you may be thinking to yourself, but Kenka, why are you so passionate about what is basically a spin-off to a beat-em-up series? Well, this spin-off is one of the most popular Kunio-Kun games in the entire series, and it doesn't reuse the original sprite work from the Famicom games. This is also going to be the first introduction to the Kunio-Kun series to many people, which is great since the series is awesome, but the game is so unpolished in many areas that it might turn off people from the rest of the series. And that sucks because the rest of the Kunio-Kun series has some amazing games, especially the most recent titles. Except for this one. I just hope that River City Girls 2 will be better. That's what sequels are meant to do after all, building upon what was great about the original game while also making improvements to what was bad about the original. This is far from Wayforward's best work in my opinion. That would be Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. For anyone that hasn't played this game, it's up to you if you want to get it, to be honest. I wouldn't recommend it, but if it does interest you in any way, I'd say go for it. But what I would recommend though is checking out the rest of the Kunio-Kun series. It's a series full of great story-centered beat-em-up style RPGs with great characters, awesome music, really satisfying gameplay, and even the later Famicom titles push the system to its limits. There's a really good collection that Arc System Works put out recently that has the entire Famicom Kunio-Kun library completely translated into English, along with the first 3 Double Dragon games, as well as River City Ransom, as well as some of the other localized Kunio-Kun titles. Just make sure to get it on sale though, because paying $40 for a collection of NES and Famicom games is
kinda cringe.
I should also mention River City Girls 0, which came out in 2021. It's basically an official localization of Shin Nekketsu Koha Kunio-Tachi no Banka, which is the Super Famicom title that introduced Kyoko and Masako as playable characters. It's a pretty fun time, albeit a bit dated. It also has a feature that I think every old game that gets localized nowadays should do. The game not only has 1 but 2 English translations, new and literal. New is more in line with the writing style of River City Girls 1, while literal is exactly what you think it is, a literal translation of the original Japanese script. I like how some localizers got really pissy about this. I don't want to delve into it in this video, but all I'm gonna say is that there's no excuse to do something like this now. I'd also recommend 2012's Double Dragon Neon. It's a fantastic reboot and tribute to the original Double Dragon games, while also being a great game in its own right. It even has online co-op, unlike the game from its sister series from 2019. I mean, at least River City Girls 2 is confirmed to have online multiplayer, which is really nice to see. That shows that they're working on making this game better than the original, gameplay-wise at least. I'm still pretty hesitant on the story aspect given how the first game played out, and we haven't seen anything plot-related in the trailers yet. But hey, I can't predict the future, so we'll just have to wait to see when River City Girls 2 actually gets a release date. I'll probably be making a video when that finally happens and I can get my hands on it. But until then, please remove Kyoko's dab in River City Girls 2 Wayforward. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Survive these River City girls. I might just die from River City girls.
Top of the morning to you ladies, my name is Jacksepticeye and welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's!